doing a tutorial here on how to do a live stream the easiest and let's get is, which is fine. And you click it, and you see your account right here, RA subscribers, logo, Creator Studios. When you see Creator Studios there, so you want to go to live streaming. Click on live streaming. All you have to do is go in the left tab again where it says events. When you click on events, it will show you do not have any upcoming events because you have not scheduled any. What you do, go to the top right corner where it says new live event. And once you click it, you will see you can title your stream, you can set it to whenever you want, and how in the description and messaging where you want to share. So we're just going to do this test stream and tags. You just put tags down there if you want, and you want to make sure, and this is very important, you want to make sure your thing is on quick.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Just a second. Hi, Teresa. Hi. Hello. Okay, screen capture. Screen capture. Can I use one of your screen capture? If you have the screen, Hi, can you hear my voice? Is my voice clear to all of you? Can you hear my voice? Is my voice clear? Perfect. Okay. Perfect. So, Vanakkam, Namaste, Assalamu alaikum to everyone present here. So it's nice to find this many of you, and we apologize for any technical difficulties that have arisen from both ends. Well, earlier we used to say, who are we to question God? But now we have to say, who are we to question technology? Because that's the way technology works. It has been ruling our lives for such a long time that we realize we can't do anything without it. So it's nice to find an overwhelming response. Please note that this recording will go live, and your personal information is best unshared here. For example, you may share your name, you may share the country from where you come or the college from where you come, but please don't share your email or your telephone number online because this is likely to go public. So for safety reasons, please don't share your mobile number or your email ID. Okay? let me be very clear about it from the beginning. Now, this particular webinar on key concepts in postcolonialism, I wish to make a slight change in the use of the preposition. I prefer to call it key concepts in postcolonialism. Now, as far as this webinar is concerned, I don't want to start off by saying, point one, I'm going to talk about this concept. Point two, I'm going to talk about this concept. Point three, I'm going to talk about this concept. I don't think that's the way we're going to go about postcolonialism. So we will be taking a journey back and forth in time. We will start with colonialism. We will move on to decolonization. We'll start with colonialism. We will move on to decolonization and post-colonialism, and we will try to explore concepts as we move back and forth in time. Is that okay with you? Excuse me for a minute. Okay. All right, now I'm just trying my best to share my screen with you. And as I told you, I'm very sorry that, there's been a lot of technical difficulty. We're just trying to share the screen with you so that we could start. Do you see me, or do you see the screen as well? Do you see me, or do you see the screen as well? Now what do you see? Do you see me or the screen? Do you see me, or do you see only the screen? Sorry to keep you waiting, but today the God of technology perhaps is a little angry with all of us, and he needs to be appeased. So I'm just going to share the screen with all of you. It may take a couple of minutes. I'm extremely sorry, but I feel so bad that things are so much out of control. This is really bad. I feel sorry for all of you. Because of technical problems, now I have to share videos, I have to share the screen, everything with the college. I feel so bad about it. The reason being, you have spent all your precious time waiting for this. It feels really bad. So, good evening once again, and I earnestly apologize for the situation. I'm extremely sorry about it. So, let me start with an earnest prayer to God that everything be fine. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani paschantu, ma kaschita dukhabhaga bhavet. May there be happiness around. May there be no illness around. May everyone see things in a positive and happy light. And may there be always good around. Let there be peace and prosperity and no illness among humanity. This is the common prayer that we all have towards one cosmic supreme, whom we may call by different names. So, in today's talk, as I told you, we're going to start off with what is colonialism. We're going to move on to decolonization, and then we will touch upon post-colonialism. I will try my best to do justice to whatever I'm here to do. Now, before I move on to the idea of decolonization, post-colonial literature and all that, let me tell you one thing. Often I have noticed that when we discuss post-colonialism or colonialism or decolonization, I see people looking at it, most of us, including myself. We have learned to look at it from a very isolated perspective. If at all we look at post-colonialism or colonialism, we look at it from the point of view of one particular text. Okay, we analyze imagery, we analyze the idea of colonialism, and that's it. We adopt a more isolated approach. According to me, we need to integrate other approaches into our study. For example, how many of us analyze post-colonial works by taking linguistic aspects into account? There is always this big divide between literature and linguistics. We say that this is literature, that is linguistics. Oh, you are the ELT people. Oh, you are the literature people. But let me tell you one thing. Literature and linguistics, or literature and language, are always complementary, not contradictory. So when we already spoke about colonialism, I had already had in mind a few linguistic concepts. The first concept I'd like to talk about, which we may also discuss in the course of our slides and our discussions. The first point is the concept of the majority language and the minority language. Now, when one country takes over another country, the first thing they always do is to put down the colonized language. There's always the concept of the majority language and the minority language. So the majority language always has higher status in society, and the minority language, sadly speaking, does not have as much status. So what happens when the majority language gains more importance? There are two things that happen. One is language shift. People are more obsessed with prestige. People are more obsessed with themselves and their children speaking those languages that are privileged. So what happens? The majority language takes the center. The minority languages are pushed to the margin. They're not so important. So what happens? Most people who even are native speakers of minority languages start shifting over to the majority languages. So what happens? Because of this language shift, there is language loss. Their children have less, fluency with their own native language. They grow up speaking the majority language. And because of this, the minority languages suffer a lot, and this leads to linguicide or language death. Now, if you read David Crystal's book on language death, he talks about the language Kasabe in Africa. He talks about one single speaker who could speak the language and only his sister could understand the language. And this language was wiped out because of colonialism. So when people tried to record, parts of that language, by the time they came with their videos and their cameras and things like that to note down and to record, the person had died. So Crystal says he died taking Kasabe with him. So when we deal with colonialism and decolonization and post-colonialism, we fail to realize the importance given to the language. Literature, after all, uses language as its medium. So where are we focusing on language? We don't focus on linguicide. As far as India is concerned, there are so many languages. Aduni, Dichi, Nagini, so many languages. If you go to websites, you will see that hundreds of languages have been wiped out. So when the colonizer is responsible for a language or a set of languages being wiped out, either directly or indirectly, we call the colonizer's language the killer language. In most cases, English has been a killer language. We have to accept that. We are using the colonizer's language here. I'm using the colonizer's language. All of you are listening to me in the colonizer's language and typing as well in the colonizer's language. We have to accept that. At the same time, we also have to accept the fact that it has been a killer language. It brought about the death of various other languages directly or indirectly. But that doesn't mean you should stop using English. You should use only the regional tongue. No. In fact, a few weeks ago, I was talking to a friend from Orissa, and she told me how she saw the change in language shift, how she remembers as a child how there were many languages, there were many movies, there were many drama shows in Odia, but now most of them have been taken over by Hindi shows. So, even after colonization, you do have the impact of colonialism. We have to keep that in mind. So, this is what we're going to talk about today. Even before the slides come, let us discuss a few other things. Now, how many of you are familiar with the idea of the Subaltern Studies? I thought before they upload the slides, we'll discuss a few other things. How many of you are familiar with the idea of Subaltern Studies? What exactly do you mean by the subaltern? Now, when I say subaltern, the minute you say sub, it is a prefix for anything which is not important, which is less important. Anything which is subordinate, which is secondary to the main. So subaltern, anything which is secondary to the main, anything which is inferior. Now, when we deal with subaltern, we must talk about what is called hegemony, which comes from the word hegemonia, the Greek word hegemonia, which means political supremacy. Okay, it means political supremacy. So, hegemony deals with those classes which are politically or financially or socially supreme or consider themselves supreme or superior to the others. So, hegemony does not just refer to that. It refers to the legalizing or legitimizing of everything that the hegemonic classes do. For example, the ruling classes have their own ways of justifying their actions. Now, what did the colonizers do when they came to Native America? What did the British do when they came to India? They said they were making us more civilized. They said we are pagans. They said we are heathens. They said, we are going to make you more cultured, more civilized. So, what were they doing? Whatever divide and rule they adopted, whatever taxes they levied, whatever compulsions were levied upon us, they were all validated, justified, and thereby legitimized. This is what is called hegemony. So, learn English. It is very important. You will get a job only if you learn English. You will get a government job as a clerk, as a translator, as a scribe. So this was the bait. And they all fell for the bait. So legitimizing the actions of the colonizer. When the colonizer takes over another country and legitimizes his actions at every step, justifies his action at every step, this is what we call hegemony. Now, when you talk about the term subaltern, you need to know who coined this term subaltern. It's by a person, an Italian called Antonio Gramsci. It is Gransci, but it's pronounced as she, Gramsci. Now, Antonio Gramsci was referring to basically the capitalist and the working class or the proletariat. He was talking about the proletariat or the working class people when he spoke about subaltern. He had not the faintest idea of India's caste system in mind. So that was the original meaning of subaltern, the inferior classes who are not privileged in any sense and who are bound by the hegemonic powers. So this is the whole idea of the subaltern. Now there are 6 points that Gramsci bears in mind when he talks about the subaltern. Now what exactly does he mean by the subaltern? There are 6 points that he has in mind. Number 1, he says when you deal with subaltern studies, the first thing you should find out how these groups were formed. Who formed these groups? For example, the caste system in India, the Varnashrama, was even there before the colonizer came in. So the division of classes into the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, that was already there. And for the colonizer, that was very convenient. He could pit one against the other and thereby rule us. So how were the groups formed? So this is the main thing in Sabatham Studies. First of all, the objective formation of the groups. That is the first point. The second point, in what way are they affiliated? In what way do they subscribe to the hegemonic powers? For example, if you look at those classes in India, be it the upper classes or the lower classes, the upper castes or the lower castes, many of them supported the British. Now, most people from the upper castes or the upper classes supported the British. Why? Because they wanted favors. They knew that that was the way they would rise higher. And sadly speaking, many of the lower caste people also supported the British only because they were treated very badly by their own countrymen. So when they were asked to convert to another religion in the name of equality, that is when they decided to move in. So many of them willingly accept the hegemonic power. Many of them are brainwashed into accepting, the hegemonic power. It still continues. It still continues. We are never totally free from the colonial impact. We are never totally free from colonial impact. Us have driven them physically out of our country, but not from our minds. We have never driven them away from our psyche. Can you all hear me? Because for some of you, the audio is not clear. Can you hear me? Is my voice clear? Some of you are not able to hear me. Is my voice clear? Okay, for some of you, they say it. Well, I think the problem again is with your network. If your network is strong, then you can hear me. Thank you. So, as I was telling you, there are 6 points that Gramsci talks about in Subaltern Studies. The first one he talks about is objective formation. How are they formed? Second, their active or passive affiliation to the hegemonic powers. Third, the birth of new parties. So, when the lower castes or the lower classes begin forming their own parties in order to fight for their rights. So that is the third point. The fourth point, what are their claims? Why are these parties formed and what is the nature of their claims? Okay. The fifth point, even within the old framework, gradually people start rising. Within the old framework, people start coming up. Now, the British Council brought out a series of audio stories called Fishing for Jasmine. I'll just type it in the chat window. It's called Fishing for Jasmine. And one of the stories that I was listening to is called Vasu's Cow by Brindachari. Now, Brindachari is a social activist, a non-Dalit talking about the Dalits. Now, it's a very humorous story, but there's a lot more to it than just humor. Now, you have a Brahmin ghetto in a village, and there suddenly there is a stench. And it's too much. And even the village priest, who's 80 years old and who hasn't seen, smelled, or spoken much for years, feels the stench. And he says something is wrong. And they say, Vasu's cow is dead. So immediately the people say, come on, if Vasu's cow is dead, the stench is pervading the atmosphere. Please go call the untouchables, the Chandalas, and ask them to bury the cow. And they all walk up to them and they say, hey, come, do this work. And they say, sorry. All these years, you made us work for you. You treated us like dirt. Clean your own toilets, cut your own hair, and bury your own dead. You're not ready to do such things. Do your work. And people wonder what's going to happen. So, one fine night, one of the women is unable to even mate with her husband, she runs out of the house, her sari half undone, her blouse buttons half open, and she vomits out. She says the stench has gotten into her psyche. And then people are afraid. They think that the village priest, who's already 80 years old, will also fall sick. And if he dies, there will be another dead body for them to think about. So one fine day, they cover their faces like thieves because they're Brahmins. They don't want to be seen as burying their dead. They remove their sacred threads. They cover their heads, their faces like thieves. They mask themselves. And with great difficulty, they carry the cow and they bury it. They're wondering how best they should wash themselves, what are the ablutions they should perform. And there, in the so-called untouchables ghetto, there are lights streaming. There are lights twinkling. So, what does this story tell you about? Within the existing framework, people have started rising. People have started rearing their heads. So this is one aspect of subaltern studies. So I hope this particular idea is clear. Please let me know. Is there any point which you think I have not made clear? Now, when I talk about subaltern, I'm talking about the upper class and the lower class, the upper caste and the lower caste. Now, Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak talks about woman as the subaltern. She talks about the status of woman in society, whether it is colonialism or post-colonialism. The status of women in society to a great extent remains questionable. So in most cases, woman happens to be the subaltern. And in her essay, Can the Subaltern Speak? She discusses this. Now, many people have raised a controversy over the last part of her essay, The Subaltern Cannot Speak. Now, this does not mean that the subaltern classes are incapable of voicing their views. It does not mean that they are incapable of voicing their opinions. No, that's not what it means. It means that there is no concrete body of theory. There is no concrete body of literature that is there to explain this process. This is what she's trying to say. So when you read Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak, it does not mean that she's saying that the subaltern are useless, the subaltern classes are useless, they can't talk, they're doomed. That's it. No, that's not what it means. Gayatri Spivak says that there is no concrete body of literature. Now, of course, yes, it is emerging. We have Ranajit Guha talking about the subaltern. We have a lot of literature on the subaltern classes. For example, you have writers like Bama Faustina Susairaj. You have Meena Kandasamy. You have Ajay Navaria from the Jamia Islamia, who talks about subaltern literature. So, these days, yes, it is emerging. But when Gayatri Spivak wrote her particular essay, at that time, a concrete body of thinking, a concrete body of post-colonial thought had not succinctly emerged. So that is why she says the subaltern can't speak. Now let me give you another example of subaltern studies. Now this again is by a non-Dalit writer, and this writer is a bilingual. He writes in Odia and in English. This is Manoj Das. Now, Manoj Das's story, The Owl, is a beautiful example of subaltern studies. You can read subaltern studies there very clearly. Now, Manoj Das talks about the village of Vishalpur. That is the setting. Okay? So he talks about the village of Vishalpur. I'll type in the chat window in order to make things clearer. So in this village of Vishalpur, there is a temple, and this temple has been neglected. Now, the zamindar system, the zamindari system, was supposed to be taking care of the temple. But you know the zamindari system as well, the feudal system. And so the landlords washed their hands off God. They said, no, we can't take care of the temple. So the priest, even before the roof of the temple could fall down, carries the deity to his own house. He allots a room for the deity, and every day the room is washed with cow dung and puja, and everything is offered to the deity. Okay? So the people are again very devout. They pray to the deity. And because they don't have enough money, they're not able to build another temple for this deity. Now, there is an owl which sits on the roof of the temple and hoots every night. So, as years go by, the villagers consider the owl the temple owl. Okay? And they're very superstitious. So, some of them even build stories that this owl predicted the death of so-and-so, that this owl predicted the arrival of the cyclone, the rains, the famine, everything. And some people even ask questions, is it the same owl which my grandfather saw, which has a terribly long life, or is it another owl? And some people say, we don't know how long owls live, so this is the temple owl, that's all. So one fine day, the zamindar, who's paralyzed, asks his son to come to the village. Now he's studying law in the city. He comes to the village, and every night, after all the puja and all that is done, the owl hoots. So one night, the villagers hear the owl hooting, and immediately after that, there is a gunshot heard. And after that, there is something like the screeching of the owl heard. The villagers come out in groups. They see the paralyzed zamindar's young son walking with confidence with a gun in his hand. Now they are scared. They're not able to talk to him. And even the man, Balbhadra Das, who does 90% of the talking that the entire village does, even he is scared. And they're standing there very quietly. They're cowed. But they also know that it is 1948, 1 year since India has become independent. So they think it is not necessary to bow down to the Jamindar's son the way they used to do to his father. See the change in attitude? So they stand there for some time, and then Balbhadra Das summons courage and he asks, you killed the owl, did you? And the man gives him a very casual look and says, yeah, so? Now Balbhadra Das gains more courage and he says, you killed the village owl, the temple owl. How could you? And the young zamindar is amused. He says, my gun spares no one. My bullets spare no one. Whether it is bird or beast, genie or ghost, whoever it is. And then all the villagers start buzzing out. They say, you can get away killing ghosts or genies, but you can't get away with the temple owl. Now this man begins to get afraid, and he tells his assistant, who are these fellows? Why are they coming behind me like this? And he goes to his place where he's camped. And earlier the villagers would have never dared step there if they knew the zamindar was camped there. But now they're wondering what to do. And the young zamindar also is young blood. He's educated. He says, gentlemen, come, sit here. I want to talk to all of you. So they all come, they sit like this. They spread their cloths, their turbans on the ground, and they all sit looking at him as if they're looking at a specimen. And he asks, what is wrong if I kill the owl? And one of them says, oh, you should ask the village priest, sir. And as if, in response to this, the village priests, he starts off on a very dramatic wail. Oh, what what will I say? And everybody crying and tell me what happened. He says, my son tried to mimic the sound of the owl, and since then he's been missing. I've not been able to find him. It's been 5 years, I'm not able to find him as yet. And then the young Zamindar gets afraid. He shoos them away. But what happens is that it has a great effect on his psyche. Fever, he gets into fits, he gets delirious. And what happens is that he finally dies. Okay? His daima, or his nurse who's been taking care of him, she starts wailing, and it's not like before, where people couldn't even take a look at the Jamindar's body. Now times, even the palanquin, the palki, or the palak as you call in Tamil, the palki is faded. Those pictures of the fairies and of riches and gold which were engraved on the palanquin, they're all faded. So the villagers go with the dead body till the end of the village, and then they come back and sit with their hands on the head like this. And suddenly, the hooting of the owl is heard. Aha! This owl is supernatural. This owl is special. It hasn't died. And then one of the villagers asks, is it true that the Zamindari system is going to be scrapped out completely? And the story ends with, nobody cared to answer. Now let's analyze this story from the subaltern perspective. Do you see the rise of the village folk? See, earlier, they were the margin. The Zamindar was the center. And they used to prostrate before him like they prostrated before God. They were even ready to give up on God, but not on the Zamindar out of fear. So, do you think it was easy for them? No, it wasn't easy. They were forced to follow the Zamindar and his ways. But what happens? When times change, when independence really takes over India in its stride, their mindset changes. They realize that they also have the power to speak. They realize that their religion, their morals, their values also matter. So do you see the gradual rise of the subaltern? And look at the symbolism used. You know, they say that died out. So the dying out of the lamp, the fading of designs on the palanquin, all these symbolize the scrapping out of the Zamindari system. The scrapping out of the upper class, the scrapping out gradually of class distinction. So this is how we need to analyze subaltern studies. So I can give you one more example. I don't want to go only into literature. These days there's a lot of scope on film narratives. I don't know if you have watched the Hindi film Mitch Masala. It was released in the year 1987. Starring Smita Patel, Raj Babbar and Nazaruddin Shah. Actually, it's a beautiful film. And I really feel, that you all need to watch this film. It's called Mitch Masala. It came out in 1987 and it is one of its kind. Well, Suresh Oberoi got the Best Supporting Actor award. But I'm surprised that Nazaruddin Shah and Smita Patel didn't win a chance of an award because their acting is amazing. Om Puri also has done a great job. It's about the protagonist, the female protagonist, Sonbai. Shiva, she is a homemaker. She is Raj Baba's wife and the Subedar or the tax collector of the village, for whom the natives are crap, trash, garbage to be used and thrown aside. He comes there to the village, and when you have the village women dancing on various occasions, he sits there with a smug look on his face, pointing out to women and asking who this woman is, whether she would be brought to his bed. So the idea of seeing woman as an object of carnal lust or pleasure. His eyes fall even on the Buki's wife. Deepti Naval plays that role. And he says, no, that's my wife. And his eyes fall on Sonbai. And he says, I want her. If you don't give me Sonbai, I will destroy your village. See, look at his divide and rule policy. And then the Buki, the part played by Suresh Oberoi, the Buki goes to her and says, please, you have to do this sacrifice for the village. She says, don't I matter? Don't my values as a wife, as a woman, as a daughter-in-law, or as a daughter matter? Is it only you that matters? Will you send your wife like this to him to save the village? So does it mean because I belong to the lower caste or the lower class, my chastity does not matter at all? So the story takes a turn where she runs into the factory where they make chili powder, which accounts for the title of the film, Mitch Masala. She runs into the factory, and there, the women at first are very angry. They say, why have you come here? Now, if he sees us, he's going to take us also along with you. Why are you bringing bad luck to us? Kulmoi, get out. So she says, look, think about me as a woman. Are you all not women? And the watchman of that factory says, I will support you. I will support you. I will not support just you. I will support every woman who works here. Even if it means my life, I'm going to support you. And he stands guard. The women are still undecided. The women, young and old, are undecided. They don't know what to do. The Subedar orders people to crush the door using huge, heavy wood logs. The door is crushed. The watchman kills a few people with his gun. He is killed in turn. And the Subedar marches in triumphantly, waiting to take her. And there Sonbai stands with a sickle in hand, trying her best to defend herself. And the twist comes, it reminds you, it beats O. Henry hollow, the twist. The twist comes at the nth minute when the women decide to take things into their hands. They bring chili powder in twos, in sacks, and they just throw chili powder, spray chili powder on his face. The man is lost. He has never anticipated this. He never did in his life anticipate such a move from the women. One after the other, in pairs they come and they fling the chili powder right onto his face. Finally, he goes down on his knees, trying to literally dig his eyes out because they're burning and he's not able to take it. And the film ends with Sonbai standing straight with a victorious look on her face. So this is an example of how woman is seen as subaltern. There is yet another story which I'd like to share with you. It's called Brides of the Well by Shekhar Kapoor. If any of you has read this, well, you can interpret it beautifully from the point of view of woman as subaltern. Give me a minute, I'll share the link with you so that you can also make use of this. Yeah, I got it. So I'm glad at least I'm able to use the link to share. Now I'd like to share one more link with you.
Your business idea needs a website.
I hope you all got the link. So this link will help you. You can read the story whenever you choose to. Can you see me? Can you see me? Well, I see my picture freezing. If I have unfrozen in yours, it's perfectly fine. Okay. Now I'd like you to watch this particular link. I'd like you to watch this particular link. Can you please click on the link which I have sent you right now? Yeah, I'm not able to see it as well. Can you hear my voice? Can you hear my voice? Can you hear my voice? Okay, perfect. Can you please click on the YouTube link that I have sent you? It is from the film Gandhi. Yes, I look frozen and I'm wondering what went wrong. Okay, perfect. So technology is trying to test us. Can you try it again? Okay, you can go to YouTube and you can type Gandhi Part 2. It is for 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Gandhi Part 2. If you go to YouTube and if you click on Gandhi Part 2, okay? If you click on Gandhi Part 2, yeah, please don't click on the link, go to YouTube and type Gandhi Part 2. Yes, Gandhi Part 2. And you will have something like Gandhi, like this. It will come somewhat like this, So it's the scene where Gandhi is thrown from the train. Okay. Now, fine. It's okay even if the feedback is not, the link is not working. Let's discuss this. I'm sure you can hear my voice. It's okay. Even if I have frozen, it's okay. I'm sure you can hear my voice. Okay, fine. So now I'd like to talk about two other concepts in colonialism and post-colonialism. One is called mimicry. Now, if you look at that video, when you get a chance, you will see the perfect example of mimicry. Now, during the colonial period, many of them try to imitate the colonizer's style, the colonizer's codes, the colonizer's language, and the colonizer's values. This concept is called mimicry. So, in most cases, the colonized imitates the values, customs, language, and culture of the colonizer. This is what you call mimicry. Now, for those people who imitate the colonizer or who try to follow the colonizer, we call them the complicit. Now, who is a complicit? A person who assists another person in illegal or illegitimate activities, in wrong activities. Excuse me. Okay? So a person who assists another person in illegal or illegitimate activities. Such a person is called complicit. Now, for example, I told you about the film Mitch Masala. Now, the Buki who asks Sonbai to go to the Subedar's bed is an example of complicit. He follows the Subedar, he follows the British government because he wants to gain favors from them. So those people who try to follow the colonizer indulge in what is called mimicry, and they are considered complicit. And please remember, there is one more point I will say and stop with this. The other is called ambivalence. The other is called ambivalence. Now, what do you mean by ambivalence? Ambivalence is an in-between state. Now, you have those who imitate the colonizer, there are those who resist the colonizer. Now, ambivalence is an in-between stage. You don't hate the colonizer completely. Though you say, I hate the colonizer, I want him out of my country, you do adopt some of his ways. So this is called ambivalence. So I hope the session was clear enough for all of you. So today I was able to discuss Subaltern studies with you. I was able to discuss mimicry, complicit, and ambivalence. I'm sorry if there have been technical issues of any kind. Thank you very much for the kind of feedback that you have provided. From my end, I use a fiber optic connection, so I don't think there's a problem with network from my end. I don't know where the network has failed. So thank you very much. It was wonderful seeing this many of you. I pray that I get a session again to talk to all of you. Thank you very much. Thanks to Kongu College for giving me this opportunity. Thanks to Jasmine, who hasn't even batted an eyelid since yesterday, who's been with me. Thank you very much for your feedback. And again, I apologize for any technical hitch that has been there. Thank you very much. If there has been anything unsaid, if there has been anything that has been left unclarified, I apologize for the same. Thank you very much. And Jasmine, can I say goodbye to everyone? Thank you very much. Okay, wow. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm obliged to all of you for this kind of a feedback. I feel humbled in your presence. Thank you very much. Nazir? Nazir?